Asem. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is April N and welcome to my YouTube channel. For those of you guys who are new to my channel, please subscribe and don't forget to click on the bell notification button to always be notified whenever I upload new videos. Today's video is basically going to be about how I made valedictorian at the University of Ghana School of Law. So in July 2020, I graduated from the University of Ghana School of Law with a 3.84 GPA. That's a first class honors, and I also was the valedictorian of the 2020 year group. In this video, I'm going to be telling you guys what I did. So what was my study routine like, and how exactly did I go about my university life in order to get such a high GPA, or what I think I did which actually contributed to such a high GPA. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let's get right into it. So when I first got into the School of Law in 2016, I had no idea what I was actually doing. Like, of course, I had heard all of those things about law, that it's a very difficult course, you know, it's tough, it takes up a lot of your time and all that. But then I didn't have a plan. You know, I thought that, oh, I'm pretty smart, you know, because in general, throughout my whole school life, I've had pretty good grades. So I thought that I was pretty smart and that, sure, law is a difficult course, but I should be able to handle it. So I just entered law school freely, should I say anyhow. And I guess, you know, one of the very first things that really helped me was talking to a senior. So before the first semester got really tough, I had a one-on-one conversation with just one senior. He really helped me. At that time, he was in his final year and I was in my first year. He basically gave me just a brief overview of what is expected of us law students, specifically in exams. A lot of those things I myself have improved upon, and that is why I share them with you guys in my Sex for Grades video, how to make good grades in law school. I'll link that video right up here. Yeah, so he sort of just gave me a brief overview, but then from then going, I was of course the one who took the lead in all of my affairs. You know, I had to organize my schedule very well in order to get good grades. So how did I go about it? The very first thing I want to talk about is lectures. Before I go any further in this video, I would just like to put out a disclaimer that this is my story. So these are not tips on how to study or advice on how you guys should study in order to get good grades or in order to do well in school. No, this is what I did for myself, which helped me. So maybe you guys can be inspired by this video, or if you guys are like me in terms of, you know, my lifestyle, my strengths and my weaknesses, then maybe you can incorporate some of these things into your study routines as well. But generally speaking, I intend to do another video which is going to be general tips on how to study, you know. So this video is just about how I made it. So this video might not directly apply to you, just keep that in mind. So the very first thing I want to talk about is lectures. I went for every single lecture at the University of Ghana School of Law. I literally made sure that I was present at every lecture. If I have even missed one lecture in 4 years, then I don't remember that to have happened. It's possible that I might have missed one lecture, and if that happened, it was definitely because of sickness, not any other reason. So yeah, lectures to me were very important. I made it a habit to always come on time, before time, or right on time for every lecture, and I sat throughout all the lectures. The lectures really helped me because I'm someone who learns not only by sight, so I don't only learn by reading, but I also learn by listening. And it was very important for me to get all the information firsthand from the lecturer who I knew was going to mark my paper, rather than take someone's notes and copy them or ask a classmate what happened during the lecture. And in terms of lecture notes, I made sure that my lecture notes were very detailed. So there are some people who write very brief lecture notes, like they will just do some small pointers and that's it for them. No, I was very meticulous with how I took down notes. My notes were always complete. I didn't have gaps or anything of that sort. I really put in a lot of hard work into my lecture notes, because from the moment that the lecturer starts speaking, I put down everything that he says, which I think is relevant, and it was usually quite a lot. So I really put in a lot of effort into my lecture notes, because this is coming directly from the lecturer, who in most cases is the examiner. In class, I've had some people ask me, whether or not I was intimidated by my mates, did I really contribute in class, and, questions of that nature. No, I was never intimidated by my mates in class. I'm the kind of person who doesn't really care if, there are certain people in the class who answer a lot of questions, or who sort of are show-offs, in class. It doesn't bother me in any way. I let people do their own thing. So yeah, I was never intimidated or bothered by classmates who were very showy, classmates who spoke a lot, classmates who contributed a lot in class. I personally wasn't really that person, because I'm not much of a talker. In actuality, I'm not very eloquent, and I'm also not really good at articulating myself verbally. I'm more of a writer. So when it comes to participating in class, it wasn't really my thing. That doesn't mean that I didn't know the answer, although I didn't always know the answer to the questions that the lecturer asked. I just wasn't really interested in speaking in class because I didn't see the benefit to it. There's an interesting thing that I would like to point out here. In different educational systems, stress is put on different things. So when I was in Ukraine, for example, you get marks for speaking in class. Now, then I really did participate, because every time a lecturer asks a question, if you raise your hand and the lecturer calls you and then you answer, and then you answer the question, you get a mark based on how you responded to the question. So that was sort of a motivation for us to participate in class. But here in Ghana, that's not the system. At least at the University of Ghana School of Law, that is not the system. So I didn't feel any, there was nothing that motivated me to speak in class. So yeah, I just didn't really participate. When it comes to tutorials, for those of you guys who don't know, at Legon Law, our tutorials are led by our lecturers, so we don't have TAs. It's literally our lecturers who take up all tutorials, and tutorials are compulsory to attend. And I attended every one of the tutorials that I signed up for, and I also attended other tutorial groups which I did not sign up for. So what I mean by this is that when we sign up for tutorials at Legon Law, there are several groups. So let's say for one subject, let's say for criminal law, we have 3 tutorial groups. And these 3 tutorial groups are led by 3 different lecturers, all of whom are criminal law lecturers. So let's say Professor A takes tutorial group 1, Professor B takes tutorial group 2, and Professor C takes tutorial group 3. And they all teach criminal law. They all also lecture us at different points in time. Yeah, but you can only be assigned to one tutorial group, which is led by one lecturer. So for me, I did not only attend my tutorial groups. So if, let's say, my tutorial group was tutorial group 1 with Professor A, I attended tutorial groups 2 and 3 in addition to my tutorial group 1. Why? Because I also wanted to get the information from Professor B and Professor C. The thing is, you don't really know who in particular might mark your paper, because like I already said, for us, one subject like criminal law in one semester can be taught by 3 different lecturers. So one lecturer can take one topic, another lecturer can take another topic, and then a third lecturer can take a third topic. So I wanted to get inputs from every single lecturer, so I went for all tutorials. So when it comes to personal notes, apart from lecture notes, we also had to make our own personal notes. I mean, we didn't have to, but most of us did, because without that, really, you just won't survive in law school. Like, you won't be able to, get through it without making your own notes. Whilst I actually wrote out my lecture notes, I typed out my personal notes. And I've had questions as to why don't I just type out my lecture notes? Why do I write them? Because it's harder kind of, and it also takes a bit more time because I type faster than I write. But the reason why I did that was because when it comes to exams, right, you don't type your exams. I mean, aside the corona period, realistically and generally speaking, we write our exams. And for the law exams, because of the limited period of time, we have to write really, really fast. So during our lecture hours, when I wrote lecture notes, I practiced my writing. I don't know about you guys, but if I don't write for a particular period of time, I forget how to write. So, you know that vacation period where you don't write anything, then you come back to school and it's like, sure, maybe you can write, but your handwriting and everything is just some way. That's what happens to me. So I made sure that I always wrote out my lecture notes to practice, my writing. And then I typed out my personal notes to also practice my typing. Yeah. So for my personal notes, the way we study law, I mean, for law students and former law students who are now lawyers, you guys already know how, the law is studied and how you go about it. Yeah, it takes you a lot of hours to put together your personal notes, and I in particular spent a lot of time on my personal notes. In general, I allocated minimum 2 hours almost every day just to write personal notes. So this does not include tutorial times, this does not include lecture times, this is just the time for my personal notes. I would usually make my personal notes in the library, in the law school library at Legon. So I would go there, and then I would just literally be sitting for hours, reading cases, reading books, and making my own personal notes. Minimum 2 hours. Now, I couldn't do this every day because obviously, you need some time to chill as well and to do other stuff. So because of that, my personal notes and study time was way more than 2 hours because I had to make up for the days where I was just having fun. So on average, maybe I would spend 5 to 6 hours on the days that I would be studying and taking my personal notes. So I made my personal notes every day because I had to keep up with what we were studying in class. And at Legon Law, we take 5 subjects every semester. So I had to be able to keep up with all the notes every week. That was obviously very difficult to do because I had to keep up with the topics that the lecturer was teaching in class. So the moment a lecturer finished a particular topic, I had to make sure that, my personal notes were up to date with that. So all in all, I would maybe do my personal notes maybe 4 days a week. So let's say after all lectures and after all tutorials on Monday, I would take 5 to 6 hours just for my personal notes. I will do the same thing for Tuesday. Then maybe on Wednesday, I'll take a break. And then on Thursday, again, I'm doing my personal notes 5 to 6 hours after lectures and tutorials, and the same for Friday. Saturday, maybe I'll take a break. Sunday, I'll take a break. Sometimes I would also have to make my personal notes on the weekends. So it just depends. But generally speaking, I allocated at least 4 days a week, 5 to 6 hours, just to do my personal notes. Now, here is also quite a critical moment. As I already stated in my previous video on how to make good grades in law school, I have a short-term memory. This means that if, let's say, I read something today, in a couple of days, I probably wouldn't remember what I read. I might have an idea, like I'll remember that, oh, I read something about this, but then the specific details are very hard for me to remember. My memory is not the best. So during the semester, I actually never studied, if you guys know what I mean. Like I actually never spent time memorizing things, trying to remember things. No, I never did that. Even if I did, it was very minimal, just for the purpose of tutorials and for lectures, when lecturers ask you questions and then you have to reply, that sort of thing. But besides that, I never actually studied, if you know what I mean. All I did was make notes. I was more focused on having my notes up to date on every topic, on every subject. And of course, whilst you make your own notes, there is something that will stick in your head, or at least you will know where to find it. So if even if I didn't remember some details about a particular topic in the middle of the semester, I knew where I could find the notes on it, so I could refer to that if ever I needed those particular notes to, for example, answer a problem question, a tutorial problem question, or anything of that sort. But I never did any memorizing or remembering during the semester. Now, about covering everything on the reading list. For law, our reading lists are just really, really long. Like, our reading lists can be quite terrifying to look at. So, did I cover everything on the reading list? I did my best, yes, to cover everything on the reading list. That doesn't mean that I went through every book on the reading list, but for every topic, I tried to cover as much as possible. And that is what those 5 to 6 hours a day for my personal note taking was for. It was during those times that I would look for books in the library. I would try to find all the books, all the cases. Like, I literally tried my best to do all that, to cover everything on the reading list. I didn't put much time, like I've already told you guys, into memorization, remembering and all that, but I did try to find every material so that, I could look through the materials. I didn't actually read the whole thing. So what I do is skim read. Skim reading can really, really help you a lot so that you don't waste a lot of time. If, let's say, it's a particular case that I need to, let's say that on the reading list for contracts, there are 40 cases that you have to read for one topic, right? I would make sure that I find all of those cases, but I wouldn't read the full cases, especially if they are really long. I would just skim read them and look for the information which is relevant to me. That is the principle and the facts that are relevant to the principle. The principle depends on whatever topic it is that the lecturer has taught you in class. That's why lecture notes are very important, because I refer to my lecture notes to see the topic. And also, usually the lecturer mentions the principle in the case in class, so I try to find that principle in the actual case, see exactly what the judge or the judges have said about it, and also get the exact facts of the case. Finish, and I'm done with that case. I don't waste my time reading full cases. I don't go into detail with the cases. I just do my skim reading. I get the relevant information. I put it on my laptop as my personal notes, and I'm good to go. That's it. Done with that. And so with this method, 5 to 6 hours, 4 times a week at least, well, it got me covered with basically the whole reading list. Yeah. Of course, there are also some books, for example, that I couldn't find, some cases that I couldn't find in the library, online, wherever. If I asked my classmates, they didn't have it, then, it's either I would go and ask the lecturer for the case, and sometimes they do send us the cases through WhatsApp, or I just let it go and I focus on the information that I actually had access to. So on the issue of study groups are very common in law school, because it's very hard for an individual, for one person, to get all the relevant information, and also it's good to get somebody else's perspective, somebody else's opinion. So study groups are very popular, but I guess I have quite an unpopular opinion about study groups. But then again, like I've already said, when you guys started watching this video, I already said, this is what worked for me. It might not necessarily work for you because people are different. That is why I'll just give general study tips in a later video. But for now, I'm just telling you guys my experience and how I went about things. So the thing about study groups is that for me, I'm really reserved. I don't like being with a lot of people, and it's not that I don't like communication, I do, but I'm usually more of a loner type than a group, study group kind of person sort of thing. So no, I didn't really have a study group. I did have a mini study group with one post-first degree student and then one classmate of mine who was also my desk partner, sitting partner basically. Yeah, so the three of us sort of had mini study group sessions, but it wasn't anything serious. Like, it wasn't, because I know some study groups, they can be sitting in the law school till midnight or 1 a.m. and it's a large group of people. So let's say 8 people, and they are very intensively discussing stuff and all that. No, I never did any of that. I never participated in those kinds of groups. First of all, because I felt like, to me, they were a waste of my time. When I hear so many varying opinions, it confuses me personally. it makes me question some of the stuff that I have studied myself and some of the things that I concluded on. So I don't really like that sort of thing. For me, instead of study groups, I use the tutorial approach, which I've already talked about. So I got all the opinions, all the views, all people's perspective from the many tutorials that I visited. And also, visiting all of those tutorials helped me also get more views and opinions and perspectives from the lecturers themselves, which I valued more than the perspectives of my colleagues. So I sort of replaced the proper study group sort of thing with more tutorials, which of course it took up my time because I had to go for extra tutorials. But to be completely honest with you guys, I think that it really paid off for me, because some lecturers and some tutorials say certain things which other lecturers and other tutorials don't say, and it also helps you with understanding, and it also helps you with how you strategically go about answering the questions in the exam, because different lecturers expect different things. So it's best if you get a perspective from every lecturer from their own mouth, not from something that your colleagues say. I was in a room from my first year to my third year at Legon. So I obviously had 3 other roommates. How did I deal with that? Well, most of the time I wasn't even in the room. So all of those personal study time hours that I was telling you guys about, I did most of them at the law school library. I was able to have my peace of mind there. I was able not to get distracted there. So yeah, I wasn't in my room most of the time. So I didn't usually participate in all kinds of room activities or room drama or whatever. And also in my second and my third years, I had the most amazing roommates who were very understanding. We had a fantastic time the short periods of time that I was in the room. So yeah, I never really had issues in terms of that. I was still able to focus. I was still able to do my stuff. Yeah, and in my final year, I was in 2 in a room. So, I mean, I had more privacy and I had more time to myself. I also had my own desk in the room, which was my personal desk. So sometimes I would also study in the room or make my personal notes, not actually study. But when it comes to cooking and stuff, I personally really hate cooking. I can do it because I'm kind of forced to do it, especially at home, but I don't like doing it. So I would rather study, work, or do something else rather than cook. I feel like cooking is a waste of my time, energy, and effort. So I can spend like an hour cooking, right? Well, if it's a more complex meal, maybe 1.5, depending on what it is and the conditions of where I'm cooking. And then after that, I'll go and eat for 20 minutes, and I'm already tired. Because of the cooking, I'm already tired. And then after that, I have to study? Hell no. Okay, so when it comes to food, a lot of the times I would buy food on campus, not anything pricey. And also on the weekends, I used to go home. So usually on Sunday, I would go home. I would cook, and then I would bring some of the food back to campus, and then I would be eating that, some days during the week. So I sort of combined home food, which I cooked myself, and then bought food. But I didn't really cook on campus. In my first year, I cooked the most on campus. And then after that, I just sort of stopped doing it, especially in my second year, because the stress was just too much. And I kind of started getting depressed in my second year because it was just not easy at all. So yeah, I didn't do a lot of cooking on campus at all from my second year going. In terms of social activities, I did not take part in any church activities at all. That wasn't what I was doing in my spare time. Usually I would go out, with friends or with my boyfriend. Also, I did take part in some law students union activities. I was a member of several committees. I was also the head of the blog and writing committee. At some point in time, I was also working as a part-time intern during the school year. That was, I think, the first semester of my second year. I did a part-time internship. It was a remote internship, so I just had to be doing legal research and writing papers, and sending through email, that sort of thing. Also in my third year, I opened an Instagram shop. It's a thrift shop. The shop was rebranded recently, so you guys can check it out on Instagram. It's called ajthrift. So I'll leave the link in the description box below in case you guys want to check it out. Yeah, so basically those are the activities that I was partaking in. I rarely went to parties, clubs, and things like that. That's not really my thing, even though I did go to a couple of them during my whole 4 years. but it's not really my scene. So I usually just go to see, what's going on. I'm a very curious person, so that's why I would go to, let's say, a party or a club, but not because I actually enjoy it. I don't really like noise, I don't like crowds. And that, of course, means that I didn't really go for hall weeks either. I think I went for Pent Hall Week just once in 4 years. And maybe I went to some other hall weeks, but I just passed through because I couldn't stand the noise and the number of people there. Yeah, so basically that's just what I was doing. And as a lot of you guys also know, I was in a long-term relationship throughout most of my years at Legon. And about that, I'm going to make a separate video concerning me and my man. So if you guys are interested, you should definitely keep up with me to find out more about that, how we met, how we sustained our relationship for a really long time. And I'll make a separate video concerning relationships, that's friendships and romantic relationships, and school. Yeah, but I was able to balance that with my schoolwork just because I prioritized. So if I would meet my boyfriend once a week, that was okay for me, and we would usually have the whole day together, and then the rest of the days in the week I specifically used for my school activities, and the rest of the days of the week I would use for all my committee, part-time internship, and of course study time activities. And in terms of full-time internships, I made sure to intern every vacation, every summer vacation, or every long vacation. I think that's how a lot of people here call it. Every long vacation I intern. Sometimes I even intern twice. So basically every long vacation for me was separated into my travel time and my internship time. I always traveled. Every year I traveled, and every year I interned during the long vacation. So I usually traveled to Ukraine and Russia, and I also traveled once to Rwanda during the long vacation. Yeah, so that's how I was also able to get some practical experience through full-time internships. And at the same time, I was also able to focus on my schoolwork during the academic year. So I think the very last thing that I would like to talk about is how exactly I prepared for exams. As I already told you guys, I didn't do any remembering or memorization during the actual semester. I did most of that right before the exam. The thing is, right before the exam, I had all of my notes put together, and I spent days editing those notes, making them shorter, making them organized in such a structure that would make it easy for me to understand and to remember. So I only memorized names of cases and dates and names of textbook authors and other scholars. Those are the only things that I memorized. When it comes to the principle, and then the general laws, I didn't memorize them, I just understood them. And when I understand something, I'm able to explain it in my own words. That's how I went about it. I didn't literally sit and memorize, a lot of information, because I can't do that. Some people are different. There are some people who are able to fantastically do this. Unfortunately, I cannot do that. So I was never able to give word for word what a particular provision said or what a particular judge said. I know someone who is able to literally say word for word exactly what Justice Soa said about the spirit of the Constitution. I can't do that. So yeah, and also I would also like to point out that I made sure to sleep at least 7 hours every day. In the extreme, maybe I would get 5 hours of sleep, but I always slept, at a reasonable time, and I woke up at a reasonable time. During the academic year and before the exams, I would make sure that I did all the important things during the day, so that I would go to bed at least by 11 p.m. or midnight, and then wake up by 6, 7 a.m. the next day. So yeah, that was very important to me. I don't study at night. I know a lot of Ghanaian students do that. I don't do that. And when it comes to studying at night, especially during the academic year, I can't see how I'll be studying at night and then going for lectures in the morning of the next day. Like, I function during the day. During the night, my mind has to rest and sleep. I can't do the inverse. And also, we write our exams during the day. So for me, if I have a routine where I study at night and then the exam is during the daytime, my brain is going to be sleeping because it's used to sleeping during this particular time. Do you get me? And then to come awake during the night time. So I can't, I don't think that routine would have helped me personally. I do the standard. I work my ass off during the day, and at night I sleep and I rest. And that has helped me personally. Okay guys, so this is the end of this video. Like I have already said multiple times, I don't recommend that you guys just literally copy what I did or follow through with what I did in terms of my routine and in terms of how I went about my study time. This helped me, but I'm a different person from you. It might help you if you are somewhat similar to me, or you could try to take certain tips from me. But generally speaking, like I've already said, I'm going to make another video which is going to be general and not tailored to me or my experience, and I'm sure that that video would help you guys a bit more in terms of what to take into consideration, how to plan your day, how to plan your week, and also even how to plan your academic year so that you would be able to get good grades and graduate well. Yeah, so thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and also learned something. If you did, please like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and also to click on the bell notification button to be notified every time I release a new video. Thank you once again for watching, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.